Throughout history, humans have considered themselves the undisputed rulers of this planet. But sometimes, animals had other plans. Imagine a tiger that tracked down a poacher, waited at his cabin for days, and got the ultimate revenge. Or a proud parade of elephants that declared war on an entire village. I've uncovered 10 jaw-dropping stories where animals completely flipped the script on humans. These aren't just random animal attacks. They're calculated responses, clever retaliations, and sometimes perfectly executed vendettas. Number 10. A flock of geese ratted out the Gauls who tried to invade Rome in 390 BCE. In 390 BCE, the Gauls, a Celtic people who inhabited modern-day France and Germany, must have been feeling pretty good. They had successfully conquered most of Rome and only had Capitoline Hill, the capital, left. The hill was fiercely protected, so the Gauls planned to attack at night to surprise the defenders. However, there was one alert system they didn't prepare for: birds. Geese, to be exact. The geese lived in the temple of Juno and were awoken by the sneaking soldiers. To show their unhappiness at being woken up, the geese honked and flew off, making enough noise to alert the Roman soldiers. The Romans were able to defend the capital successfully. After this defeat, it's said that the Gauls opened up negotiations with the Romans, who agreed to pay the Gauls 1,000 pounds of gold if they left immediately. The Gauls were happy with this deal and agreed. However, as they weighed the gold, Roman backup arrived, and they defeated the Gauls outright in battle. While these Roman geese saved an empire with their honking, they weren't the only animals to impact maritime history. In fact, one massive sea creature spent half a century tormenting sailors and sinking ships across the Byzantine Empire. Number 9. Porphyrius, the whale sank Byzantine ships for 50 years. If you were a sailor in 6th century Byzantium, there was one name that sent shivers down your spine: Porphyrius. Porphyrius was a large whale that swam the straits between the Black and Aegean Sea. Said to be 45 feet long, the whale would attack any ship it felt like ramming that day, whether it be a merchant ship carrying goods or a fishing vessel. And Porphyrius didn't just wreak havoc for a few years. He was destroying ships for 5 decades. While the Byzantine emperor called for Porphyrius's head, no one could capture the creature. Porphyrius's eventual demise came down an unfortunate calculation error. Porphyrius was said to be chasing dolphins and got too close to the shore, beaching himself. The locals realized what whale they had on their beach and proceeded to unceremoniously kill the animal before feasting on its meat. Porphyrius may have terrorized ancient waters for decades, but at least sailors could avoid his territory. For villagers living along Lake Tanganyika in Africa, there was no escaping the jaws of a monster who turned their shoreline into a hunting ground. Number 8. Gustave the crocodile was a living legend that inspired a horror film. Gustave may have been one of the largest and most dangerous crocodiles of his time. The creature was reported to be 20 feet long and weigh approximately 2,000 pounds, making him much larger than the average croc. His first kill was believed to have taken place in 1987, a villager that lived alongside Africa's Lake Tanganyika, where Gustave dwelled. Over the next 3 decades, 300 deaths have been attributed to the monster crocodile, though the real number may be closer to 60. Gustave was easy to recognize due to his massive size and a large scar on his head. Hunters and researchers tried to capture the beast, but they were never successful. As Gustave was already around 60 years old in 2005, and the average lifespan for a croc is 45, the chances of Gustave still lurking are fairly low. But his legend has lived on, even inspiring the 2007 horror film Primeval. While Gustave's reign of terror made him a legend on land and water, sometimes the most unexpected animal troublemakers come in the cutest packages. Just ask the surfers of Santa Cruz, who found themselves facing an unlikely board thief. Number 7. An otter in Santa Cruz began hassling surfers and stealing their surfboards.
Here's a video from Santa Cruz showing an encounter between a sea otter and a surfer. The 5-year-old otter can be seen commandeering the surfboard and biting into the foam.
Blow that up.
No one likes a pickpocket, but when that pickpocket has furry paws and a tail, the line gets a little blurry. The thief in this example is Otter 841, who lives in the waters outside Santa Cruz, CA. The sea otter has taken a liking to surfboards, so much so that she'll climb onto occupied boards. While hitching a ride seems fairly innocent, the otter has begun to chase off the board's owners by either nibbling on the board or shooing the human away. While this may, rightly so, seem adorable, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has said that this type of behavior isn't at all normal for an otter, so people should be cautious of the animal. It seems that the friendly behavior may have been an inherited trait. However, as 841 was originally born into captivity because her mother was also too friendly with humans and was therefore taken out of the wild. No matter her crimes, we're calling for a petition to give Otter 841 an official name and maybe a board of her own. Though this surfboard-stealing otter might seem like harmless mischief, animals can escalate to outright revenge when provoked. When a parade of elephants lost one of their own to human technology, they didn't just grieve, they retaliated. Number 6. A herd of elephants attacked a town after one of their own was hit by a train. We are just starting to understand the intricate relationships that elephants share with each other. We know they communicate, and also have many documented cases of elephants mourning a fallen member of their herd. So in 2013, after an elephant was struck and killed by a train, the remaining 15 members of its herd, also known as a parade, stood near the site and mourned. Humans attempted to chase the elephants away, likely so more trains could pass through, and the elephants eventually, reluctantly, left. When they attempted to come back, people shot off firecrackers and banged drums to keep the animals at bay. But the elephants didn't simply move on. They seemed to understand that humans were at fault for their loved one's death, so they began attacking homes at a nearby village. When they were finally chased away, they went to another village, destroying part of a schoolhouse. These elephants demonstrated remarkable coordination in their revenge campaign, but when it comes to targeting specific individuals, one aquarium resident proved animals can hold surprisingly personal grudges. Number 5. Truman the octopus would shoot water at a specific volunteer. Octopi are among some of the most intelligent creatures in the sea. They can camouflage themselves, use tools, and maybe even predict sporting events. But Truman, an octopus at the New England Aquarium, also seemed to have a sense of who he did, and really didn't like. This was seen when it came to one young woman who volunteered at the aquarium. Whenever Truman would see her, he would shoot a stream of water at her, using the funnel near the side of his head that is normally used to move through the water. Eventually, the volunteer left for college, and Truman stopped his spray sessions. But when she came back for a visit a few months later, Truman immediately sprayed her again. While Truman singled out just one unfortunate volunteer, some animal behaviors spread like wildfire through entire populations. Off the coast of Europe, a disturbing new trend has sailors increasingly nervous about encounters with the ocean's apex predators. Number 4. In 2023, orcas began sinking boats, and the behavior has been spreading among pods. In recent months, the world's eyes have been on the Iberian coast of Europe, where a strange occurrence has been happening. Orcas, also known as killer whales, have been ramming boats, specifically targeting the ship's rudders. While these specific orcas have been making contact with hundreds of boats since 2020, in fact, at least 350 tracked interactions, their attacks have ramped up as of late, with 3 boats fully sinking. So why did this strange behavior start? It seems that the matriarch of one of the pods, White Gladis, had a traumatizing moment with a boat, either a collision or she was targeted by illegal fishermen. As biologist Alfredo Lopez Fernandez said, that traumatized orca is the one that started this behavior of physical contact with the boat. Orcas are extremely intelligent, and scientists believe the younger orcas have begun to copy White Gladis's dangerous behavior. However, they don't believe the older orcas are actively teaching the youngsters to do this. They're simply picking it up by imitation. Fun fact, though nicknamed killer whales, orcas are actually part of the dolphin family. Though these boat-attacking orcas have marine authorities concerned, they're not the first animal population to wage an organized campaign against humans. In fact, Australia once deployed its military against an unlikely feathered enemy.
Number 3. Australia started a war to solve its emu problem, and the emus won. The infamous Emu War has been quite the blight on Australia's history. The conflict started after World War I, when the government started a new program to give veterans farmland. However, that farmland started extending into the territory of the West Australian emus. They were 20,000 strong and were picking apart any wheat the veterans planted. As the veterans didn't have access to ammunition, this was now during the Great Depression, the Australian government sent out the active military to take care of the bird problem. This turned out to be a massive failure. The troops weren't able to hit the chaotic birds, and it ended up taking them 10 bullets to down one emu, a pretty awful statistic. Rather than keep sinking money and manpower into the effort, the army was recalled, essentially making the emus the victors. The emus may have won their war through sheer numbers and chaos, but some animals demonstrate a much more calculated approach to revenge. When one man in China lashed out at a stray dog, he had no idea what he was starting. Number 2. A group of stray dogs attacked a man's car after he kicked one of them. Dogs are very loyal creatures. Not only to humans, but also to each other. So when a man in Chongqing, China, decided to kick a stray dog who was in his parking spot in 2015, the dog's friends were down to retaliate. After being beaten, the lone dog limped off by itself. Before too long, the dog returned with several other stray dogs, and they started to attack the perpetrator's car. What damage can a dog do to a car? Well, they managed to dent in the sides by chomping down on the metal, as well as scratching up much of the exterior. A neighbor happened to see and photograph what had happened, and it's safe to say everyone was on the side of the pooches. These vengeful dogs showed impressive teamwork, but our final story demonstrates perhaps the most chilling example of animal retribution ever documented, when a wounded predator turned the tables on its hunter in the most personal way possible. Number 1. A tiger shot by a poacher found where he lived and waited for him to come home. Tigers are among the most fierce hunters in the animal kingdom. And it seems they may be able to consciously hold a grudge, too. In 1997 Russia, a poacher named Vladimir Markov shot an Amur tiger, also called a Siberian tiger. Markov then stole the tiger's kill and left him to die. However, the tiger didn't die. Instead, the large cat tracked Markov sent to his cabin. Here, the animal waited somewhere between 12 and 48 hours until Markov returned home, also wrecking anything in the home that carried the man's scent. Upon his arrival, the tiger pounced on Markov and killed him. The tiger then ate the poacher,